South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg made headlines when he announced his candidacy for president back in 2019. And he's still making news today as President Joe Biden's nominee for Transportation Secretary. He's joining us now. Hello, Mayor Pete. I'm going to call you Mayor Pete still. Is that okay?
I'll always answer to Mayor Pete. Good to be with you.
Even if you're president, we're going to call you Mayor Pete.
Once a mayor, always a mayor.
Almost 6 months ago to the day, on July 27, 2020, you tweeted a picture waking up that first day, the sun rises, and Joe Biden is in the White House. Now, that is something you have worked tirelessly to help make happen. Yesterday, at long last, was that first day that you wanted. So how did it feel for you?
It felt great. You know, I'd been thinking about that sunrise for so long, and watching the sun come up, seeing a lot of friends online posting pictures of what it looked like from where they were, it really felt like a new day. Look, we know what we're up against. We know that our country's got a lot that we face, but we're doing it with a president whose first instinct is to bring us together. And right off the bat, I think that's making a big difference. America won't change overnight, but what changed overnight is that we have the leadership, I believe, that we need in order to tackle these enormous problems that we face as a country.
Well, hopefully soon to be Secretary Pete. News broke not long before you got on the show that articles of impeachment will be delivered to the Senate on Monday. Do you think the Senate will convict? You know, and this goes back to Sonny's point on accountability.
I don't know, but certainly what's different this time is you have Republicans and Democrats agreeing on, some Republicans agreeing with Democrats on this. And I think it's very important that it be bipartisan. Look, accountability is part of unity, and that's something the Senate will have to take seriously in addition to all of the other business of the country. It's not a small task, but it's really important for us to be able to move on.
Mayor Pete, last night news broke and there were photos everywhere that posted thousands of our National Guard members in Washington that were forced to vacate congressional grounds to move to a parking garage with limited access to basic needs. I heard there was one bathroom in 38-degree weather. After absolute bipartisan outrage, the Guard has been allowed back into the Capitol complex. But as someone who's served, as you have, what is your reaction to this? And don't you think this is disgraceful and that Democrats are now running all three branches of government? Who is to blame, and how can we make sure this never happens again?
Well, this never should have happened, that's for sure. And I was upset to hear this news. You know, yesterday I was on the Capitol complex as we were going into our hearings in the Senate, and there were so many of these amazing National Guard troops with such professionalism, knowing that they had this job to do. And it was a very strange thing for me to see because, you know, I was looking at them going by their gear. Their uniforms were, in many cases, identical to what was issued to me in order to go to Afghanistan 7 years ago. And, you know, they were bearing that equipment in order to keep us safe in the heart of our democracy, in our capital. And of course, they did a fantastic job. We need to find out how this happened. I was upset to see some people seeming to already try to falsely blame this on the speaker and make a political thing of this. I think that both sides of the aisle can agree that we have to treat our troops better than that because they did a phenomenal job of securing the Capitol, and they do a phenomenal job of securing the country.
Mayor Pete, in talking about healing the divisiveness that's unfortunately become so pronounced in our country, you've often said you have to meet people where they are. Now, it's been just over 2 weeks since the insurrection at the Capitol carried out by people who falsely believe the election was stolen. Is there a path to meeting some people where they are when that place seems light years away?
It's going to be tough. Look, meeting people where they are doesn't mean you kind of split the difference between somebody who's been taken in by a conspiracy theory or by extremism. We have to face the fact that there are a lot of fellow Americans, people who might seem normal enough if you were standing next to them in line at the grocery or next to them at a barbecue, but who have been radicalized by the Trump era. And that's not going to just change overnight. But I think we have two things that need to happen. One of them is happening right now, which is a president of the United States who is calling this country to our highest values and insisting on being a president for everybody. It's the tone that he set in his inauguration speech, and it's anybody who knows him, it's in his heart. But the second thing that has to happen is we've got to deliver. government and the Americans, everything in American society has to do a better job of delivering results, delivering a better life for Americans. The more we do that, the more unified and trusting I think Americans can be as systems become more trustworthy. That's what I'm going to be focused on if I'm confirmed. Making sure that we actually deliver better roads and airports and ports and bridges and trains, the kinds of things that build up confidence in America as a whole. I think the more we have that, the less you find people drawn to these wild, crazy, dangerous, and sometimes deadly extremes.
I really do hope that you get confirmed, because you're someone who, in my view, has made a real effort to reach out to both sides of the aisle, be it politically or through the press, as we saw in your repeat appearances on Fox News. What can you say to your fellow Democrats and Republicans, too, about how to stay open to that when facing serious opposition? I mean, I think that so many people just have been fed this misinformation over the past 4 years, and they just don't know the truth anymore. And will you continue to appear on Fox News?
Yeah, part of why I try to go into media spaces that don't see a lot of people from my party is for exactly this reason. I think a lot of Americans are in different realities from each other. They're not even getting the same information. And so if I ever get an opportunity to carry what I know to be the truth, not necessarily, about one side being right, but just facts, into a space where that truth hasn't been heard, I've got a duty to do it. I do think it's so important that we get back to a shared sense of the same reality. And reaching out, it isn't always about splitting the difference or pretending we agree where we don't. It's that when we don't agree, we're doing it in good faith. And I do think there's a chance at that. I felt that way yesterday in the Senate. Republicans and Democrats who will be voting on my confirmation, who don't agree on everything, but agree that we need to step it up when it comes to our country's infrastructure. I was even introduced by my home state senator, a Republican, who we have a lot of very different views on a lot of things, but who did the honors in presenting me to the committee. And I think anytime we can find that sort of goodwill, we got to make the most of it.
You're very optimistic. We'll have more with Pete Buttigieg when we come back. And we are back with Pete Buttigieg. Anna, you have the first question.
Mayor Pete, President Biden promised the most diverse cabinet, and he has delivered the most diverse cabinet in U.S. history. One of those glass breakers in that cabinet is you. If confirmed, you will be the first openly LGBTQ secretary in U.S. history. And I read a story about how when you were 17 years old, you read about Ambassador Hormel, who was not confirmed by the Senate because he was openly gay, and what that meant to you. You've had a chance to speak to him. Can you tell us about the conversation? Can you just tell us what it means to you to be breaking that glass ceiling?
Yeah, I had a remarkable conversation with him about his experience when President Clinton appointed him to this role. And he said he actually specifically asked to be appointed to a role that would require a vote in the Senate, knowing that they would deny him that vote just in order to put a crack in that wall, to make it a little bit easier for the next person to come along, which is what happened. Eventually, he did get to serve as an ambassador, and more people broke more and more barriers. But it's remarkable to think, yesterday as I was in that hearing, taking those questions from senators, you could see my husband, Chasten, over my shoulder. And that's something that's never happened before for a cabinet nominee. And again, my hope is that in turn makes it easier for the next person to come along so that this is never even viewed as a barrier by a future generation.
So yesterday I mentioned on the air how concerned I am for my grandson because of global warming and climate change, et cetera. Now, if you're confirmed, you're going to be the Secretary of Transportation, which I'm not clear exactly how that impacts climate change. Tell me how that works.
Oh, the opportunity is huge. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited about this role. Think about the future of electric vehicles, for example. Think about the future of passenger rail, knowing that often trains that are powered electrically have less carbon emissions. Think about what it would mean for us to have charging stations across the country for those electric cars as they become more and more affordable, making it easier to be able to take a subway or even bike in addition to what we're doing for cars. Transportation is actually the single biggest part of our economy that puts carbon dioxide into the air. So getting this right is one of the single biggest things we can do to make that future better for your grandkids and for everybody who really has life or death stakes in whether we succeed in battling climate change. It's such a compelling opportunity, and it's one of the top things the president's asked us all to make sure that we're working on.
Yes, and a lot of green jobs will be created as a result of all of that, which would be great for the economy. So thanks so much. We always appreciate you coming here and speaking with such an open mind. I appreciate it very much. We'll be right back, Mayor Pete.
Thanks for having me.
No.